Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 6th, and I just returned from Texas late last night. I left on Thursday and went over there to meet up with the trucker convoy and go down to Shelby Park. The Governor Abbott was having a press conference on Sunday with, he's got the support of more than half of the governors of the states across the United States. And that is a monumental statement right there. But I think there was about 17 governors who were there with him Sunday for his press conference. And it was a very exciting, eye-opening trip. I got in Thursday and we went up to Dripping Springs, Texas, which is where the truck convoy was gathering that night. And it was a huge gathering. It was full of patriotic people. We had Sarah Palin was there speaking. Let's see who else. Laura. I can't think of her last name now. She does a lot of investigative type reporting. She was there, and Ann Vanderstill and different ones. A lot of politicians there in Texas were speaking. And then they allowed me to go up on the stage and do a Angel Family speech and talk about the loss of American lives, about the fentanyl poisoning, and how the attention span of America is so short. It's just a short span. You know, I have been fighting this battle in May, it's going to be 10 years that my son was killed, May 12th, 2014. And I have been out talking about this for 10 years, about things that were going to start happening and that it was going to become more widespread, unbeknownst to us at the time that the fentanyl issue was going to become so bad to a point where it's between 120 and 140,000 Americans a year are killed from fentanyl poisoning. So open borders represent death in so many ways. Death to American citizens, death to unsuspecting, people who buy pills online or go out partying, and so many of these illicit drugs are laced with fentanyl now, or the pills that they buy, the Adderalls, the Xanax, those type of pills, laced with fentanyl. So it's fentanyl poisoning. It's not overdoses because these people are not drug addicts. And the fact that these platforms, even, Snapchat and Instagram and different ones, even allow these types of transactions to happen to where people have pills for sale, and the verbiage that's used in communicating with each other, you would think that they would have algorithms and catch this sort of stuff and stop it. But it's only getting worse by the day. These truckers went down there to bring awareness to what Governor Abbott is doing. And when you stop to think about, there was a time when we thought Governor Abbott was just, speaking the words and not really doing any of the action. But it takes time to go through laws, to figure out, okay, if we do this, the federal government's going to do this. We have to have the law on our side, but in this situation with open borders, Governor Abbott has gone down the list and he has declared an invasion of Texas. And therefore, they are enabled to bring state rights forward according to the Constitution. When you have a federal government that does not protect its citizens, foreign and domestic, from foreign and domestic threats, then the states do have the right to protect its borders and protect its citizens, its people. And that is why so many of these strong, conservative, constitutional backing governors are there standing strong with Governor Abbott. Because this is absolutely the chain of where things should be going now. And it's unfortunate that in the state of Arizona, we've got Governor Katie Hobbs, who is a liberal. I mean, a real liberal. And she will never back anything up like this. She's done her little thing where I'm going to call National Guard to the border to protect it. Well, they're doing nothing. She doesn't give them the authority to do anything like Governor Abbott is doing there in Texas. You've got, and Governor Katie Hobbs vetoes anything and everything that the Arizona legislation tries to bring up to create border security here in the state of Arizona. We've got such a slight majority in the legislation here in Arizona, in the House and in the Senate, that this next go around of elections is very, very, very important. That's why I'm running for Arizona State Representative in Legislative District 9, because we've got to get rid of the Democrats that are in place right now in our district. This last go around, the 2022 elections, they spent $2.5 million on their elections for the 2 House seats and the Senate seat to grasp that control and to keep these policies in place, these open borders. They knew what Governor Hobbs was going to be doing. She immediately came into office and undid the few things that Governor Ducey, our previous governor, had done. So, but anyway, so Thursday night, I spoke at Dripping Springs at the Trucker Convoy rally, which was very, very nice. It was just meeting the nicest people. And that's one thing that I will say. When you go to these conservative type gatherings, people are friendly, people are nice, people are patriotic. There isn't this nasty undertone of people screaming and yelling and getting into your face. It's a gathering of like-minded people who only want to see the best for our country. And those are the kind of people that I like being around. So Friday night, there was a big fundraising dinner for Commander Jay Furman, who's running for Congress in CD 28 there in Texas. I spoke at his fundraiser. He's a great guy. If you live in Texas, if you live in CD 28, definitely look Jay Furman up, Commander Jay Furman, former commander in the Navy, and look at his platform. And he's the best answer. Running against Henry Cuellar, you've got to get Henry out of there. You've got to get solid representation in DC and people who understand what really need to happen. So I spoke at his fundraiser Friday night. And then Saturday we got up and went over by Del Rio, south of there, between there and Eagle Pass. The trucker convoy was arriving there and having another big rally Saturday. And I spoke at the rally again there. Again, a group of beautiful, patriotic people. There was some crazies. It was on a private ranch. And so, they were able to keep out who they wanted to keep out. And of course, the crazies were across the street with bullhorns and screaming all their craziness. But they slowly went away because none of the conservatives engaged with them, confronted them. And, that's what they love, is confrontation and engaging people so that they can have screaming matches and videotape this sort of thing, and then turn it around and make it look like conservatives are the wackos. So, everybody was advised to not engage with them, and they went away really quick. So it was a very peaceful day. The people just kept coming throughout the day, speaking on stage, hearing from a lot of different perspectives what was happening, why we need to be doing what Governor Abbott is doing. And so that was another great day. Then we got up Sunday and we drove down to Eagle Pass because of the press conference. Unfortunately, even though we had press passes, we were unable to get in because there was so much press there. And they had the streets blocked off with police presence going down to Shelby Park while the governors were all there. And after the governors had left, then they unbarricaded the streets, and you were able to go down to the actual fence that surrounds Shelby Park. National Guard presence, very nice guys, women, having nice conversations with us, letting us know what's going on. I got some great photos. I'll be able to get those uploaded and maybe show you some of them tomorrow. But then we ended up meeting with the Texas border czar, And we had dinner with him Sunday night, and we had some great conversations with him. And one of the big questions, that I was asking them is, what is the foot traffic like? What is happening at the border now that Governor Abbott has done this and they've put the concertina wire up? And so there was only 225 apprehensions in the complete Del Rio sector on Saturday, February 3rd. Now, mind you, Shelby Park doesn't include all of the Del Rio sector. It's only about 2.5 miles, I think. But 225 apprehensions in one day. The highs, like in December, 71,000 crossed over the Del Rio sector. And in January, the high number was 16,708. Now, Texas took over Shelby Park on January 11th. So from the 1st to the 11th is when the majority of that 16,708 came across in 10 days. So you can only imagine how bad it was going to get as January progressed. And so you can't tell me that deterrents don't work. But the problem is, because the cartel is so hell-bent on continuing to make the money that they're making and to get these people across and the drugs across, that they're going to be moving the traffic further away from the Del Rio sector. And hopefully Texas will continue going along the border and doing this sort of thing. But the unfortunate thing is now that's going to be pushing the traffic to Arizona. And Arizona is going to be seeing more and more traffic, unfortunately. We're already, seeing unbelievable numbers. I mean, 11, 12,000 people in one day was happening down there in Lukeville at a point. I don't know where it's at now, and if things have started to increase because of this closing of the Shelby Park area and, them shifting their operations and moving it into an area where there'll be less pushback. In Arizona, there's over 300 miles of unsecured border, which means it's either 4 strands of barbed wire, and it's not even on big metal stakes, fencing stakes. It's branches off of trees. I've been down there in many areas, and it's just a branch off of a tree with barbed wire, strung along in certain areas. So it's very, very easy to get across. There's no Border Patrol presence in Arizona along the majority of the border because of the increase of foot traffic here in Arizona coming across the borders. Border Patrol is being used for transportation, for processing, and they get these people onto buses and get them up to Sky Harbor, to the international airport there in Phoenix, and get them flown out of here pretty quickly. There are some camps down along the border that a lot of these independent journalists have been filming: Lukeville, Arivaca, Sassabee, different areas down in southern Arizona, that shows these camps, these NGOs that go down there and provide food and water and direction and tents and shelter. And that's one of the things that really needs to be stopped. The billions of dollars that's being given to these non-governmental organizations, these NGOs, to be providing for these people, because that's going to just keep them coming. So when I was speaking there in Dripping Springs and also in out of Del Rio with the trucker convoy, I was reminding people, and I did a podcast on this a while ago about the United Nations and the money that they are spending and the part that they play, and how they feel that remittances, which is money that illegals make here in the country and then send home to their family, those are called remittances. And $774 billion is what's anticipated that is going to be leaving the United States economy in 2024 in remittances that these illegals will be sending home to their families. $774 billion will be leaving our economy. So how does our economy in the United States continue to work if we're providing services, and what's expected is that the money that these people make in the jobs that they have will be reinvested in our country, in our economy. And when you have large amounts like $774 billion that will not be reinvested in the United States economy, you can see what kind of an impact that's going to be having in our country. And the United Nations is encouraging this. They want this to happen. They want this redistribution of wealth. They want the money to leave the United States. You had Trump, who asked for $15 billion for border security back when he was in office. Congress wouldn't approve it. But now you've got the federal government spending over $351 billion to support the illegal population in the United States. And that's just money coming from a federal angle. Then you've got the county and the state and the city money that is being spent to house these illegals. And when you think about the billions of dollars that is being handed out to these non-governmental organizations, these NGOs, to provide food, to provide shelter, and most of these illegals are just ungrateful. They expect everything to be handed to them. And, we give them food, we give them sandwiches, we provide for them so that they've got 3 square meals a day. And the majority of that food is just found thrown in dumpsters in New York City because it's not their cultural type food. You can't have this many people invading a country and not assimilating and bringing their culture and bringing their ways and think that this is all going to go hunky-dory. It's not. So one thing that I found very, very interesting, and Sandra, I was with Sandra Winton and Walter West down there in Texas, from Texas Fully Loaded, the podcast that's on before me. But Walter was overdoing some video where the protesters were down there outside of Shelby Park, and came across in the video this nun from Catholic Charities who, and I don't know that she's really an actual nun, but they call her Sister. I can't remember what her name is, but anyway, years ago when I was down in El Paso with the We Build the Wall group, we were at the airport ready to go home, and we started seeing the TSA, the lines, and this actual lady from Catholic Charities, they call her Sister, I can't remember her name, but she was leading these groups of illegals up to the TSA checkpoint. And we were watching it in disbelief as they were going through with their backpacks, going through with holding bottles of soda with the lid screwed on. They'd already been drinking out of them, just going through as we're standing in line to go through x-ray machines. We have to throw away all of our bottles of liquid, our bottles of water. We can't take anything through. And these people were just being ushered through as if none of the laws of the land applied to them. And so that's when I called Andy Biggs, Congressman Andy Biggs from Arizona, and let him know this was going on, and sent him the pictures that we had, sent him the videos, sent him the proof of what was happening in El Paso. And we had some families that had flown out of McAllen, Texas earlier, and they had those same types of pictures and videos going through TSA. So we brought that to to Congressman Andy Biggs' attention, and he had several members of Congress sign a letter to TSA asking them, hey, what's up? And of course, the response was, well, we'll get back to you. We'll look into this. We'll get back to you. And I checked back a couple months later, and there still hadn't been any explanation given to Congress as to what was going on. But yeah, so this was over 5 years ago when this was first uncovered, and when I first got a hold of Andy Biggs to let him know. So now it's going on even more, but this nun is there from Catholic Charities on the side of the street with the protesters, screaming and yelling about open borders. Well, Catholic Charities gets billions of dollars a year. And the problem with Catholic Charities is they are supposed to keep these people, back in the day when it wasn't so crazy, they were supposed to keep these people in their facilities, help them understand the assimilation process, get them fed, get them some information, find out more about them and then get them on their way. Because at that time, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I think it was about 15,000 per illegal that Catholic Charities was getting from the federal government. So you can see how profitable this is, especially with the numbers as they were getting bigger and bigger, bigger. But it got to the point where there were so many of them coming over so quickly that Catholic Charities was bringing them in, giving them a change of clothes. And, if it was late at night, they'd let them sleep on a cot, but then shoving them out the door and bringing other people in the other door. So it just became a money-making machine for these people. I'm sure all of them are getting paid huge salaries and living a very good life because of illegal immigration. And so many more NGOs are coming up through the ranks because they see what a profitable business this is. This is the type of stuff that we have to stop, because if the federal government and their agencies don't have the capacity to take care of the invasion that they facilitated, then we shouldn't be creating non-governmental organizations to take over the federal government's job. That should not be happening, because the law won't be followed. These people won't be doing things the way that should be done. Not that this administration is, but these people aren't educated and aren't in the federal government and aren't in governmental type jobs to know right from wrong. So, and then they let the power go to their heads. You've got taxpayer funded detention centers. And when you have independent journalists go up to the gate and want to talk to them and ask them some questions, it's no, get out of here. Well, what's your name? None of your business. Get away from here. You're not allowed to be filming here. Get away. This is the type of information that American citizens should be able to find out, because we're the ones funding it. We're going to work every day, paying our taxes, and this is where our money's going. So of course we should know what's happening. And thank God for some of these independent journalists who do the job and try and bring us this information. So we were talking with the Texas border czar about this bill that was coming down, this security or border bill, which, what a joke. And the way that the mainstream media is putting this out is that Republicans don't want border security because they don't want to vote for something like this. And of course, it's the scenario that it's 700 and something pages long, and it's handed to them the night before they're going to have the vote. And, good luck wading through this, and sign the bill if you want to find out what's in it. That type of scenario, the type of scenario that Nancy Pelosi created. If you want to find out what's in the bill, vote yes on it. We'll let you know. But you've got the congressional people in place who are reading through this, and they have their staff look through it. And, a few of the big things that really stuck out were, let me see. It's just insane. Let me see. So, $118 billion deal that is backed by the White House includes $14 billion in aid to Israel, $60 billion in aid to Ukraine, and $20 billion for securing the southern border amid a massive increase in illegal immigration. And this also includes billions for critical partnerships in the Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan. So it's a 370-page bill. And Mike Johnson said it's even worse than what we thought. We can't support a bill that doesn't secure the border, provides taxpayer-funded lawyers to illegal immigrants, and gives billions to radical open border groups. That's what I'm talking about, these NGOs that just want to keep it open because it's a money-making machine to them. This bill should reinstate Title 42, Remain in Mexico policies, and border wall construction. So when the bill's text was released on Sunday, President Joe Biden said in a statement, "I strongly support it." And the bill is a great gift to the Democrats and a death wish for the Republican Party, is what Trump said about it. House Republicans are especially not on board with the deal and could sink it when it goes to the lower chamber for reconciliation. So you give $60 billion to Ukraine to secure their borders, but there's only $20 billion in it to secure America's borders. How does this make any sense, honestly, folks? And the bill would mandate the border be shut if there are 5,000 encounters over the course of a week, or 8,500 migrants encountered in a single day. So basically, 4,999 illegals can be crossing our border every single day. It doesn't hit that 5,000 threshold. And if it doesn't last for a week, it goes for 6 days, and then there's 2 days that there's less, and then it goes for 6 more days. This could mean upwards of 1.8 million people coming across our border every single year. That's not shutting our borders down, folks. And it's increasing work visas by over 50,000. This is the famous thing that Democrats love to do, is increase these work visas, acting like there's not enough educated Americans to handle the jobs that need to be done in our country. But bring in millions and millions of illegals, and instead of paying an American skilled worker $20 to $25 an hour for a job that they're qualified to do, overqualified to do, you bring in 3 or 4 illegals and pay them $8 and $9 an hour under the table. That's what. And then Mayorkas has the nerve to say the other day that we need more migrants to fill these jobs that Americans won't take. Do you know how many Americans I know who have been applying for jobs endlessly for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, overqualified for jobs? They never get a call back. They never get any indication that their application was even received. They go in and hand in an application and we'll be in touch with you. They never hear back from these companies. What is going on? Yet they all have help wanted and put ads out that they need workers. But nobody seems to be hiring. I'm not getting what's going on there. So it accepts 5,000 illegal immigrants a day and gives automatic work permits to asylum recipients. And that's just a huge magnet for more illegal immigration. There's not this many people in the world who need asylum, folks. These people are not fleeing political persecution or wars in their country. The words are coming out of their mouth as they're talking to independent journalists at the border. We're coming here for work. We're coming here for work. Here's another interesting thing that I found out. So the amount of Border Patrol agents that is mandated by Congress is 21,900-ish Border Patrol agents. That's mandated by Congress. That's how many we need. We are sitting at less than 16,000 and have been. And the numbers have been steadily going down because a lot of these Border Patrol agents are retiring, leaving, because their hands are tied and they can't even do the job that they were hired to do. 21,900. So this bill talks about border security and that they need money to hire 300 more Border Patrol agents. What's 300 more Border Patrol agents going to do when we are over 5,000 to 6,000 short of the amount of Border Patrol agents that we need? And of course, the Border Patrol agents that we do have are babysitters, are bus drivers, are transporters. As the Angel Mom said in her testimony at the Mayorkas impeachment, sandwich makers. They're not doing the job that they were hired to do. They're offering $30,000 bonuses for new Border Patrol agents to come on and work. 30,000 sign-on bonuses, $30,000. And they can't get people to do the job. And of course, this is leaving all the current Border Patrol agents thinking $30,000 bonus to come on. I've been doing this job for 15 years. Where's a bonus for me? They've been dealing with this influx and this crazy invasion that's going on. Let me see. The other thing that happened when I was in Texas, I got a call from Fox and Friends, and I've really been turning down a lot of their interviews, requests, because in all honesty, what does it do? What does it do to go on Fox News or any news station for that matter and talk for 3 or 4 minutes? And it's like I was saying to a lot of people in Texas, this is regarding the attention span. Somebody listens to you on a news show talking about, I'm an angel mom. I lost my son, Sergeant Brandon Mendoza, to a repeat illegal criminal who was allowed to go free in our country. Even after they had committed crimes, they were given a slap on the wrist. And people listen to you and they go, oh, that poor lady, she lost her son. What's for dinner? They don't really think about the impact of the story that I was telling and warning people. This could happen to you in the blink of an eye. Look, it happened to me in the blink of an eye. I had no warning signs that this was going to happen to my son. These parents of these fentanyl poisoning situations, they don't get a heads up. Hey, by the way, your kid's going to die tomorrow of fentanyl poisoning. You know, keep a better eye on them. Don't let your son or daughter go out and drive, because there's going to be drunk illegals driving around our city and our states, high on meth, drunk, driving the wrong way because they can't read the signs along, the traffic signs and understand what happens if you go down the wrong way down this road. We've been warning. I mean, there was a group of us that was warning, and people just don't pay attention to your warnings. And that's a sad reality. 9/11 and tragedies like that, terrorist type situations that could happen any day because of God knows who's coming over our border. You don't get to give a heads up. But angel families have been giving people the heads up. This is what's going to happen if we don't stop allowing illegal immigration in our country. You have these men who come over from these third world countries to where the age of consent to have sex is a lot younger than what it is in the United States. And you wonder why these men are raping women and children here. Because that's the way it is in their country. They don't come here thinking, oh, there's a whole new set of laws I got to follow. They come here, bring their culture, bring their ideas and their lifestyles, and come here and think, all right, we'll just up and move and go to the United States. The land of law and order. Well, it used to be. They're not going to follow our laws. They're not going to look into what's lawful and what's not. And then on top of it, you can even be a gang of thugs and beat up a couple police officers in New York City. And the district attorney's going to say, oh, you guys are bad. You're going to come back here in a week and we're going to have a hearing on this. Those guys skedaddled as quick as they could and got on NGO buses and headed out towards California. Well, I think 3 or 4 of them were just arrested in Phoenix yesterday, of that gang of the people, of the ones who were beating up New York cops. So that's what I went on to Fox and News yesterday, Fox and Friends, to discuss was these illegals that are committing crimes, beating up cops, and nothing's being done about it. Alvin Bragg is an idiot. Any of these elected officials in sanctuary states, cities, counties, you're a bunch of idiots. You're providing sanctuary in a safe place for illegal criminals to commit crimes and then be shown leniency. A crime that if you or I committed it in the state of New York, if you assault a police officer, it's a minimum of 3.5 years that you're going to get in prison. 3.5 years. Not if you're illegal, because you'll just be able to get out of jail with no bail and be told to come back in a week, and you can leave town, change your identity, get on a bus provided by an NGO, travel across the country and set up shop in California under a new name. Commit a crime there, get on a bus, go up to Oregon. Commit a crime there. Well, we're going to head back to Chicago, another sanctuary city. They can just go all over the place, committing crimes, killing Americans, beating up police officers, shoplifting, raping. And what's going to happen to them? And this is a message that this country, that places like New York City and Chicago and Los Angeles, this is a message that they're sending out to these people. And why do you think when they're being interviewed at the border by the independent journalists, do they say, where are you from? Senegal. Where are you going? New York. Where are you from? Bangladesh. Where are you going? New York City. Where are you from? China. Where are you going? New York City. They go to these places where they know they'll be able to commit crimes and not be held accountable. These Venezuelan gangs that I was talking about over several podcasts last week, they are coming up through the ranks, and they're the ones that are doing these shoplifting type heists, going in and getting a bunch of money, pickpocketing. They even showed a video where these two guys were on a moped. They drove by this woman who had a Apple phone in her hand, and she held on to it for dear life. And they were dragging her behind them, and her body wrapped around a pole as they were turning a corner, and she let go of the phone. Come to find out, these Venezuelan gangs are stealing iPhones out of people's hands on the streets, and then they're using their Apple Pay to go and buy large things, large amounts of stuff, and then they're selling it, and then they're going down to Florida and living a good life for 2-3 months, however long the money will last them, and then they'll come back up to New York City because it's such a crime magnet and do it again. This is what's been uncovered. And there was even chatter on social media after those cops had been beat up and those guys were released. And I'm sure a lot of you saw the beautiful pictures of these illegals, walking out of jail with, double birds flipping off the cameraman. Like, who cares? They know nothing's going to happen to them. But by damn, if you or I committed that crime, we are going to be in jail. We will never be allowed to get out of there with no bail. They're going to be doubly hard on us as American citizens. So, but there's a bunch of chatter going on social media from these Venezuelans saying, we've taken over the Empire City. We're on the streets. It's ours now. Sad reality is, I honestly believe them as you see the amount of crime. And look, I know there's probably been other cops in New York City beat up by these illegals, but they're not going to put these stories out. Number one, because it'll deter other people from becoming cops. And number two, they can't let their residents know how bad it is. That, the peace officers and the ones that are there to protect you and keep you safe, that they're actually being beat up by illegal criminals. And they have no recourse. And then I saw this big protest that was going on in New York City, where it was a long string of cop cars had their sirens and lights on, and they were protesting for them not keeping these illegal criminals in jail for beating up their fellow officers. This all started, this whole disregard and not having the respect for our law enforcement agents. This all started under the Obama administration. And of course, Obama is a wonderful one who, made racism great again because he kept beating that drum. America is not racist. The majority of America is not racist. And they keep trying to shove this down our throats. But when you have this sort of thing going on, where you've got illegal criminals beating up cops and being released on no bail and skipping out on the state and never going to show up for court and for accountability for the crimes they committed, This is pissing people off. You've got American citizens. I mean, I talked to a bunch of guys down there in Texas, and, they're beside themselves. And I honestly wonder if the country and these cities and states aren't doing this sort of thing by design to bring the people to the street, to bring the patriotic people out to protest. And then what? It's pretty hard to keep your mouth shut when this sort of thing is going on, because you're silenced in so many ways. So many people are afraid to say anything about anything for fear of retaliation. Number one, what happens to you on social media. Then there's cancel culture. There's many, many ways that you can be attacked. I've been a victim of it, folks. I know what it's like, and it's scary, and it's real. And you can't decipher what threats you're getting in a text message or an email are real, or if they're just some ding dong sitting in a basement with nothing better to do but, type things out on their computer because it makes them feel better about themselves, because they're losers themselves. And attacking somebody who's trying to make a difference and do something, that makes them feel good. So people are afraid to speak up about this sort of thing. What are you going to be labeled for speaking out against, illegals that get released from custody on no bail for beating up a police officer? What are you going to be labeled? Because you're against that. We've got to stop being afraid from just speaking the truth. And there's days when I want to say something and I think, okay, but what would be the retribution for this? I'm not a person that goes out and just spews conspiracy theory type stuff. I research things. And when you're speaking from the gut, and when you're speaking from the side of truth, and the laws, and what the Constitution provides for you as a citizen, you shouldn't be afraid to speak out about things. But feelings matter in today's day and age. Feelings matter. And, when a person is told the truth to their face, and it makes them sad, well, then you're going to be attacked. And they're going to make sure that they have a video of you saying something to them so that they can put it out on social media and shut you down immediately. It was just amazing being around all these people in Texas, because they speak from their heart. They speak the truth, and they're not afraid. And I just wish more people were like that. Not in a confrontational, hateful way. Not at all. That is not what I'm saying. But to be able to speak the truth of what is happening in this country. There was something else. Let me pull up my notes. So much went on over there in Texas. It was a great, great trip. I'm so glad that I went. That was the first trip that I had taken since before COVID. And little apprehensive, but everything went fine. You didn't have to wear a mask on the planes. Everybody was friendly. Everybody was nice. There was no trouble. You see all these videos of these wackos on planes, and I was thinking, oh gosh, please don't let that be me on a plane with somebody like that. But everything went great. Airports were great. And I actually didn't even see any of the illegals at Sky Harbor here in Phoenix when I was leaving or when I was arriving back home. But I was in Terminal 3, and I think a lot of that illegal traffic ends up going out of Terminal 4, which is Southwest and American Airlines and a few other smaller airlines that go out of Terminal 4. I think that's where a lot of that type of traffic is. So I didn't really see any of that. Didn't see it in Denver. That was where I had a layover both times. And didn't see it in San Antonio when I arrived, and didn't see it in Austin when I was leaving there. So I don't know if it's just, being hidden away because they know that a lot of the independent journalists are onto them and finding ways to film this type of stuff and get it out on social media. So I don't know if that was happening, or if because there was like a slowdown there in the Del Rio sector, and I think things are slowing down a little bit all across Texas right now, that maybe there just wasn't the traffic. The other thing that the borders are there in Texas was telling me was, the Biden administration had gone over to Mexico and had those conversations about we need to stop the flow. And the Mexican government, of course, agreed, but there was a ton of stipulations. And he hadn't heard this, but I had read a big article about it, to where the Mexican government wanted sanctions lifted off of Venezuelans and Cubans, so that they were able to come into the United States. A lot of those sanctions lifted. But he was telling me that it was like millions of dollars that the Mexican government wanted infused into their economy, if you want us to help you stop the flow. So they've stopped things at the southern border in Mexico, but kind of holding things up at that point. But I said, yeah, but I heard that there was another big caravan of people coming in. He said, yeah, they're organizing it more and allowing, and if it's 15,000 of them or whatever, they'll say, okay, you can come through, but they're not allowing them to be assisted through the country. Like, they won't let them get on the trains. They won't let, buses go down and pick them up. So they're having to walk that whole way and find their way up here in other means of what they were used to. And so that's kind of slowing the whole process down. The other thing that I found pretty interesting as I was going through articles when I was in Texas is they're actually building a bridge down in the Darien Gap. The amount of money hitting these jungle communities, and they have found ways to make money in ways that they never thought they would. They're actually building a bridge across this big river that I think comes from Panama across to the beginning of the Darien Gap. But they had all these longboats, and of course those men were making tons of money bringing the people across the river. But they're now actually building this huge bridge. There's cement, rebar, and I mean, I saw pictures of it all, and I couldn't even believe it. But what is this doing to the environment down there? These jungle environments, and the amount of people. I mean, I've seen the videos of how it's trashed, and clothes and backpacks and garbage just strewn throughout the whole jungle, all the way through. People get wet, and they'll pull out some dry clothes and throw the wet ones on the side because they're too heavy to put in their backpacks and carry, and get everything else wet. And they bed down, and they'll sleep on those wet clothes or sleep on some clothes, and they end up getting wet during the night. And so they just leave them there. Where are the environmentalists? Where are the people who, were so up in arms over a border fence being built in the United States on our southern border, and the fact that it was going to harm butterflies? Like, butterflies can't fly through slatted fences or up above them. They're more worried about that sort of thing, and they'll get out there and protest about it, than they are about what's happening to the environment in the jungles and the trash heaps that these groups of people leave from where they start all the way up through Mexico, all the way up through South America, Mexico, up into the United States, in the deserts of Arizona. I've been out there. I've seen the piles of garbage, their camouflage clothes that they take off and just throw in heaps. Went out there with Sheriff Mark Lamb, and he was showing us different areas like that. Where are the environmentalists? Well, the United Nations is involved, but they're handing out American taxpayer money to these people so that they're able to make the trek and get up here. Not assimilate, just bring your culture, bring your hate for America, and come up here and get a job and send the money home to your families. It's not because you're in fear for your life. The other thing that the border czar there in Texas was telling me was that back in the days, you used to get these migrants would get seasonal work permits. And so they would come up here and work and send some money home to their families. And then the seasonal work would end and they would go home because they would have made enough money to live the rest of the year. And the next season came and they would come up here and work. And that's the way things were for decades here in the United States. But now, because it's not so much seasonal work as it is, they hire these people in restaurants and fast food places, slaughterhouses. They hire them everywhere where it's not just seasonal type work. And so now these people are moving their families up here with them. And that's what started this whole thing. Probably, I think he said 20 years ago, it was becoming more and more mainstream for them to bring their whole families up here with them and settle here. I know a ton of people here in Mesa, and the park area where my son worked, that's where a lot of illegal people live here in Mesa. And they're very good people, but they've been here for decades. They're not living off the government. They're not causing problems. They're proud to be in America. And this is where they want to stay. This is where they've raised their families for decades. Their kids have gone to school here. The whole family speaks English. Like I said, they're not a ward of the state to where they're getting welfare and food stamps and all that type of thing. Those are the types of people that immigration was built on, people who wanted to come here and be a part of America and become a contributing member of society and be proud. I'm an American, to be proud to be able to say that. And that's where Congress should be working on immigration laws to help these people who've been here for decades. And not the people that come across the border tomorrow, the Venezuelan gang members, the guy from Senegal who just wants to come here and make money, even though they're all dressed to the nines and have wads of cash and brand new phones. They're not coming here because they're destitute. I mean, for God's sakes, they're paying over $10,000 to get here. Some of these guys from China are paying $16,000, $25,000, $16,000 to $25,000 to get here. They don't need to come here for a job. How much does 10 or 15,000 that some of these people from third world countries are paying to get here? How far would that go in their home country? So we've got to be smarter about this. You've really got to make the phone calls to your representative folks and tell them to vote no on this border bill. This is not what we need. We need comprehensive change out of Congress. And we need congressional members to stop looking at this like a Democratic or a Republican problem. This is an American problem, and it's going to affect everybody the same. It's not going to affect you differently because you're a Republican, and it's not going to affect you less because you're a Democrat. This is affecting every single one of us. The United Nations and all of these organizations that are involved in pushing this global migration, and the fact that they are pushing for the redistribution of wealth out of the United States to spread it across the world, needs to worry you more than you're worried. This country cannot sustain this type of spending, this foolish spending that the Senate and Congress want to bring forward all the time with all this crap in it. Do a border bill that deals directly with securing the southern border. That's what we need, period. I don't need something that's handing $60 billion to Ukraine and $20 billion here and $15 billion to do a study on why frogs croak. We don't need that kind of crap in these bills. We need a border bill, a United States secure border bill. That's what we need. So call your representatives and make sure they understand that you are their constituent and that you demand that they're voting a certain way on this bill. Vote no. Don't let these Democrats push their weight around and push a false narrative. This bill is no good for the United States. It's raping the American taxpayers more and more and more. So that's my advice for today. Thank you for joining. I'm hoping to to go ahead and get more of the get my pictures uploaded from down there at Shelby Park and be able to share those with you tomorrow. And I'll have some new guests that are going to be coming on my podcast here in the very near future. But thank you for joining today, and I look forward to talking with you again tomorrow.